Hello, everyone. My guest today is Naeem Zafari. He's a professor of the practice at Brown University and teaches at the University of California, Berkeley as well. He's a serial entrepreneur and the founder and CEO today of a company called Telesense, an ag tech startup company. His last startup, Bitzer Mobile, was acquired by Oracle. Naeem has authored 5 books on entrepreneurship at naeemzafar.com. Naeem, are you ready to take us to the top?
Yes, indeed. Good to meet you.
You bet. So you go from selling basically software to Oracle to an IoT solution for post-harvest grain spoilage. How on earth do you make that leap?
Well, it's all about timing. So this is my 7th startup. So if I learned anything, your timing has to be right. Doesn't matter you have the right team, right idea, doesn't work. We invented the fingerprint sensor chip in 1998. We had it built into the laptop in 90 early. So today that technology and my team works for Apple is in all iPhones. So when I sold the company Bitzer Mobile, I looked what's hot, what's going to be change the world, and IoT was it. It took me 3 years to find out the right use case in IoT, Internet of Things, and grain seemed to be the right place with a very easy competitive landscape. It's all about the use case. So I was able to capitalize on that.
And help me understand what you saw about this. It sounds like you have a very unique process for identifying markets and going into them at the right timing with the right product. Dive me deeper in that kind of search. How did you do that?
So you have to be, this is again comes from being aware, reading a lot of stuff, seeing what people are investing. So as you can tell today, if you're trying to build a social network, you're about 20 years too late. So it's not going to work. So what is the next big thing? Internet interrupted every single industry 25 years ago or 20 years ago. So IoT, machines talking to machines, simplifying our lives, automating the things, saving the labor cost is the next big thing. It'll be huge in the next 10 years. The key is to finding a use case. IoT is all about a use case, and especially a use case when the software can have a bigger impact. AI, predictive analytics, if you can play on that. And even in IoT, it took me 3 years to find out the right use case. I was in cold chain. Yes, software has an impact, but not as big as the grain. Grain is a worldwide industry. Everybody needs it. And it's almost recession-proof. If you can make a small dent in people's bottom line, people want you.
How many, or what is the total grain market when you summed it up in the entire world?
Well, grain market is actually $1 trillion, but the spoilage in grain every year is $14 billion a year. And it ranges anywhere from 1 or 2% in Canada to as much as 22% in Africa, 12% in Latin America. So if you have humidity and hot environment with bad infrastructure, you need a product because this is when spoilage happens.
14 billion or trillion in spoilage?
Billion.
And based off the installs you already have for call it more than maybe a year or two, so a good cohort size, what are you able to decrease spoilage by percentage wise for any given producer?
30 to 50%. And this again will get better as more predictive analytics, more AI gets into the product.
Interesting. So assuming you get 100% market penetration, obviously a big assumption, you feel like you can essentially save, anywhere between call it $4 and $7 billion.
Yeah.
Interesting. What's your dive? I want to dive more into the market because I love how you've taken your background, which is software and all kinds of things, and found this market to go after. But I want to understand first, pricing model. Are you subsidizing the hardware and there's a software component on the back end? What's the pricing model look like?
That's exactly right. We want to basically be able to give away hardware for free, and it's all about subscription and monetizing that. So right now we do charge for hardware. At least we don't want to lose money on hardware. But as we bring the price point down, which we think we can do that by 5x in the next 2 years, then you pretty much will give away the hardware for free. And
the hardware price point down?
Yeah, by 5x. We have a very aggressive plan over the next 18 to 24 months to bring the cost. See, today, if you have vertical silos, you have cables hanging,
okay,
which can tell the temperature inside. They cost anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 per bin. Only about 20 to 30% of the facilities in the world has anything like this. Rest down. You have a ground pile. You have a open silo. There's nothing monitoring it. It's a prayer that moisture doesn't get in, mold doesn't start. So what we are able to do is we have a ball.
Okay.
size of a softball. You can toss a couple of these balls in there. They have multiple sensors. They wake up every few hours and they transmit the data. They go back to sleep. So now you're seeing on your phone, hey, something is going on. My silo number 16.
Well, hold on. Before you go there, so what's the cost relative to the $10,000 to $30,000 cables
So today the cost is anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000
per ball?
And no, this is $3,000 to $5,000 is a system with like 10 to 20 balls, a gateway, all that stuff. So today is 1/3 the cost of alternatives. And my goal is to bring it hardware even down free. Then it's all going to be subscription. Question is, you have to deliver something about 1/4 to 1/5 the alternative cost in a way that people can use it. The cables do not work in a silo bag.
Where do you come up with, Naeem, sorry, where do you come up with that 1/4 number? Is that that's to get over switching costs? You have to be at least 4 times better?
You have to
Cheaper.
be at least 4 times better. I want to get 10 to 2 years. But in two years, if you can get to be a 10x cheaper solution, it's a no-brainer.
Yep. Okay.
And
So
that's where I want to get to. My goal is to get to 10x cheaper than alternative, and the market is mine.
And tell me more about, so your your $5,000 solution, you said is 20 balls and software. How many silos does that cover?
Well, it depends on, it could be 1 or it could be 5, depending on how many data points do you need. So people come in, storage comes in different locations. Sometimes you have ground pile. Sometimes you have a tube which you fill it in. Sometimes you have a horizontal storage. Sometimes you have vertical storage. Sometimes you put it on a barge or a ship or a truck. So there's so many different physical variation. You need something which is robust, something which can have a battery life. You want something which is idiot proof. You can touch it with bulldozer, you can hit it with a hammer, and it still works. And there are constraints about explosion proof, ATEX proof. You want to be able to tolerate phosphine and other fumigants, which are used to fumigate the grain. So there are a bunch of constraints which we have learned over the last year. So my point here is you got to go deep into an industry. You got to talk to people to understand the problem first. The biggest mistake entrepreneurs make, they jump on a solution without fully understanding the problem. So if any advice I can give them, this is my advice. You study the problem. Whatever you think you know is wrong.
Mm-hmm. You want to take $5,000 for 20 balls and decrease that to what over the next 12 to 18 months?
Well, I want to decrease my hardware cost to be $1,000, but I want to not sell it for $1,000. I want to sell a solution with software subscription still for, instead of people spending $20,000, $30,000, I want to sell a solution which could be $500 a year. Continuously.
What do you, so this is what I want to break down, right? Is I want to understand the split between hardware and software as it stands today. Tell me if I'm wrong. Today, if I'm a farmer or a producer, I sign up with you, I'm going to spend $5,000. I'm going to write a $5,000 check right away. And that's going to get me 20 balls. And that's enough to cover kind of my thing. What am I paying from a software perspective?
Today, you're paying about $1,000 a year on a subscription basis and $4,000 for the hardware. Where I want to get to in about 2 years, the $1,000 is for the hardware and $4,000 for the subscription.
I see. So your price won't change, but your margin structure will go from whatever it is now, 30% because of hardware expense, up to 80 or 90% more like software.
Exactly.
That's great. I love that. Okay, and put this on a timeline for me. When did you launch the company? What year?
We launched the company in the 2014. But 2014 to 2015, 2 years, we studied the market, different use cases, trying to figure out where is the soft spot. Because you got to find the soft spot in the market when competition is distracted. I call that the underbelly of the beast. Because big companies have to rig the game for they can win. You have to find the underbelly of the beast and you got to attack it here.
Yep. So 2013, you study the market, 2014, you study the market, have you bootstrapped the company or have you raised?
No, we bootstrap. I mean, I raised a small round of $800K, but 600 of 800 was my own money. So yeah, I got a bootstrap.
So total, just to be clear, total money in the company today is 800, 600 is yours?
Yeah, in 2014.
Okay.
In 2014. Then I bootstrapped it by using interns, people with visa problems, anybody bored getting divorced at home, and all the bootstrapping things you do to find the right use case. And we find the right use case in cold chain. We looked at dangerous confined spaces We built a wireless solution for dangerous gases, but we're still looking for the ideal use case. So then I raised a little bit, couple 100,000 extra from on a convertible note in 2016, and finally I was able to find the use case in grain, where I found the competitive landscape was very favorable. Problem was big and global worldwide. The business model worked, and it was fragmented. And then that allowed me to build a story, and that allowed me to raise $6.5 million. And not just the money, but look at the investors. We got the world's largest transportation company, Maersk. We got the world's largest grain broker, McDonald's.
Why is the transportation company important?
Because grain has to be transported.
They're the largest transporter of grain.
The largest transporter of anything. $65 billion company transporting everything in containers. So grain is only one of the many things they do. So this problem could be really bigger. And then you have the world's largest agriculture bank, Rabobank. So plus the financial VCs. So once you had the story right, then people want to pile on.
Yep. No, I understand. Good. So you've got it sounds like about 7.5 million, 8 million total in the company to date.
Yeah.
That's good. And walk me through customers. So how many producers or manufacturers are you working with today?
So today we are in different stages of engagement, about 15.
Okay. How many closed though? Are you still pre-revenue?
No, we have closed 2.
Okay.
I think we have revenue from 7 or 8, but because I always do paid pilots, I don't do free pilots.
Yep.
Because I want skin in the game from both sides. So if you look at that way, I probably has 10 of them are paid. Other ones are in negotiation.
Yep.
So there are different stages of engagement, but I'm actually trying to drive in the first gear. I think it's again mistake entrepreneurs make. They get too excited, a lot of traction, they speed up, they burn the money, and they disappoint people. So I'm slow walking many of them till I get the product right and iterate with the first 2 or 3. And so it's very important how you drive. I call it driving in the first gear before you shift up.
The 8 customers you've closed, assuming they follow the revenue model you've articulated, $5,000, 4,000 hardware, 1,000 software. That means you've done about 40,000 in sales, and you're doing right now about $700 a month in revenue on the software side.
Yeah, a little more than that, because a lot of these were pilots, so there was money upfront because labor plus opportunity costs. So a little more than that.
Sure,
yeah.
But just your SaaS revenue today, ignore the hardware stuff. What are you doing per month or per year?
Yeah, just like you said, it's like a couple $1,000 a month based on these interactions, because most of them are large companies with multiple locations. 2019 is to validate the value proposition, have 5 to 10 customers who said, yeah, this stuff is good. So a time will come to optimize on MRR, ARR. Right now, the focus in make the hardware idiot proof and really robust, get the cost out of it, and prove the value proposition. Then we'll worry about SaaS metrics.
How do you drive the cost down from 4,000 for 20 balls down to 1,000 for 20 balls?
So it's all about the kind of components we use. Right now, we're using pre-made, pre-certified modules. Those are expensive. So a radio module communicating on a certain frequency could be $100. If you design your own module, when you don't buy the module, you buy the chips. You go from $100 to a $10 version. Then you make some other optimization, which I don't want to talk about, which can get you down to even below that.
Mm-hmm. And is this really just supply chain and materials engineering?
No, it has some unique stuff to cook. How do you integrate different sensors? How do you extrapolate and sense different things? It's a very complex problem. It's a radio freak RF design, a little magic analog design. How do you communicate through a bunch of grain? What are the parameters which can block the signal? It's like flying drones. If you don't have good signal with a drone crashes. So you need continuous. So there are a bunch of complications which are RF related. and fumigant related, how to make it, because phosphine is the fumigant which eats copper. So if you have copper in your design, it's going to be rotted. So you have a bunch of other complications we have overcome.
That's interesting. What's your team size today? How many people?
20.
And how many of them are engineers?
Probably 12.
12. So a guy like you, you've been around the block. Like, we can probably learn from you here. When you go out and raise the $6.5 million, you're thinking, okay, this is going to buy me how many months of runway?
2 years.
Okay, so you're raising for 2 years basically. And at that point, your hope is about, 16 months in, you would have put your costs down, things look more efficient, SaaS revenues maybe picking up a little bit. And that's a different story you can tell, then go out and raise your next round if you need to.
That's right. So idea is to prove the value proposition, raise a big round in 2020, then you scale.
Yep. 20 people. Is everyone in California?
No, majority in California. We're just setting up a development team offshore. So there are 3 people in the offshore team right now, but and then a sales guy in Midwest, because you got to have the salespeople in Midwest where the customers are.
Mm-hmm. Fully weighted CAC, is that too early?
It's too early because this is still lumpy. I'm the main sales guy right now, so CAC has to be computed more carefully. Has anyone bought the balls and the hardware and 2 or 3 months in said this isn't valuable, I don't want to use the software anymore? No, that is the good news.
Yeah, that is good news. Yeah. All right, Naeem, let's wrap up here with the famous 5. Number 1, what's your favorite business book?
Well, it's an old one. It's called The Execution. It's by Larry Bossidy and Ram Charan. Larry Bossidy was the CEO of Allied Signal Honeywell. Mm-hmm. Great book. People don't talk about it. That's an excellent book. It tells you how to run a company. The Execution? It's called, no, not just Execution.
Okay, got it. By the Honeywell CEO.
Yeah, Larry Bossidy.
Great. Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying right now?
I'm studying to see who makes sense. Problem is a part of Elon Musk is great. Part of other people are great. There's no one which fits the mold, but I think it doesn't have to be one person. It's an amalgamation of 5 people. Elon being one of them, Jobs being one of them, and Lynch. So there are a bunch. It's an amalgamation.
Yep. Number 3, what's your favorite online tool for building your business?
Well, it has been LinkedIn until now, but I think Slack is entering my life in a big way.
LinkedIn and Slack. Number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
About 6.5.
And what's your situation? Married, single, kids?
Married, 2 kids, out of the house, still on payroll.
And how old are you, Naeem?
I'm just turned 60.
60. Last question. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
It's not you, it's them, stupid.
Guys, it's not you, it's them, stupid. Again, ushering in a business model that's becoming more and more popular, which is essentially IoT or hardware plus software on the back end, following the pattern that others have followed, which is, again, get the hardware out there. The only focus is get as much distribution and market share as possible, drive hardware expenses down, and then on the back end, make your higher margin revenue on the software. He's got 8 paid accounts today, doing a couple $1,000 per month in revenue, charges $5,000 up front for basically a year of the software for $1,000 and $4,000 for the software. Hopes to flip that. Oh, sorry, $4,000 for the hardware. Hopes to flip that over the next 12 to 18 months. They founded in 2014, team of 20 people between California and remote locations. Again, helping the grain industry decrease spoilage by anywhere from 30 to 50%. Naeem, thanks for taking us to the top.
Thanks, Nathan. Good to see you.